My therapist would be very disappointed if I refer to my children as a time management technique, but I think.
Well, they're filling the other part of that time. So
yeah. Yeah. So, hi, Ben.
Hi, Carl.
I'm tired, and you called me out on it.
I saw your face, and I knew.
Yeah. So, my youngest daughter has an ear infection, so she was up, not sleeping well the past couple nights, and then last night she woke up, or this morning she woke up super early. I didn't get to bed till real late because I was up late cleaning up after the kids. It was a long morning, a rough couple days. But that's why I'm going to go right into this episode.
I thought that's why you were going to go right into a power nap. Okay, but yeah.
Power nap. Oh, God. If only, Ben.
If only.
Yeah, okay. So, listeners, if you're listening, I'm just going to take a nap for about 20 minutes. So just sit here and, think about what you've done. I don't know.
It'll all get chopped, right? And we're back.
And we're back. I'm fully refreshed. Look at this. I'm really great. No, I just used up all of my energy reserves. So I told Ben that I was going to surprise him.
I'm excited to hear about this
because this is actually, we're talking this morning about some ideas for episodes, and we both had ideas that were not this idea, and I was like, I don't care, I'm sleepy, I'm gonna just call an audible and throw it out at you. So what I want to talk about is, as engineers, as people in the music industry, in business, we are told constantly all of these different time management techniques and all of these frameworks and things that you can do, right? But if you're like Ben and I, and you have children, or maybe you have ADHD, or your other forms of neurospiciness, there are a lot of time management techniques that just don't actually fucking work, or they work for some people some of the time and they just seem to not work for us. So rather than doing an episode about time management techniques that work for studio pros, I want to talk about the time management techniques that Ben and I have tried that just do not work for us. So this is like I almost want to say like an anti-time management technique episode.
Wait, so we're saying the ones that do work for us, not the ones that don't work for us.
No, the ones that don't. Like, what are things that just like we've been told a million times to try, and then we tried it, but like with the constant tornado of curveballs that children throw at us.
Oh God.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, these things work, these techniques work well in a vacuum, but maybe don't work in reality for a lot of people. So that I think it'll be a good way for people that maybe also feel like they have a lot of difficulty with time management, and maybe they have tried some of these different techniques and it hasn't worked for them. And I want to make them feel seen and heard and not feel like they're a failure, because it wasn't working for them, or that they're like, it's just, no, like some things just like some things just work really, really, really well in a perfectly controlled environment, and in the real world, perfectly controlled environments don't work, or just don't exist.
Right. I don't know if I have stuff that I can specifically. Maybe you should start, because I still need to like let this percolate a little bit.
Well, totally. I threw this at you out of nowhere.
I feel like, yeah, like if in a perfect world, like I could like, get myself out of bed at a certain time every day, do this, like get it all together. But every day is different. Every day shit goes out the window. And yeah, and like I'm here with my studio mate here, and he also has kids, and he also is like every other day is like something goes out the window, and like we're just like always juggling random stuff. And I mean, I don't know if this is like a first thing, but like you just kind of have to be a little bit more, like deadlines have to have a little bit of ease to them. You can't always, or you have to be like, give yourself even extra padding, because if you say, oh, I'm going to get this by Tuesday, like you can try, but it might not happen because, some shit might have gone out the window, in which case you need till Wednesday. And then you just have to like, usually like, I don't know, artists, clients are very, receptive to like saying, I'm so sorry. Like things, as long as you communicate that you haven't forgotten about them, they're usually okay with it, like an extra day or whatever. But but you have to give yourself grace and not like drive yourself into the ground for deadlines. You have to kind of figure out a way to give yourself grace on those. I don't know if I could say it better than that, but
Yeah.
you can't be too much of a dickhead to yourself in terms of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I think what, kind of going off of that, I would say that the whole concept of, under promise and over deliver, I think also could apply to yourself in a way. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
don't promise yourself, don't convince yourself and lie to yourself that you're going to definitely have this thing done by Tuesday when you don't actually know if you're going to have it done by Tuesday. So it's not just a matter of under promising and over delivering to the clients, but also to your own, sense of the reality of your situation. Right. So let me start by giving an example of like a specific thing that I've found works for me in certain situations, but usually not. And what I've done to try to adapt it to make it work. Okay, so this is less about having kids, and this is more about just like with the ADHD, right? And just being kind of all over the place, being a solopreneur, running a business, all the things we're doing on top of life stuff.
Right.
So there's the technique that I've heard it called a couple different things, but there's essentially the most common one is called the 2-minute rule.
Yes.
And the whole idea is, if there's something that needs to get done and it's going to take less than 2 minutes to do it, just do it and get it over with, right? Rather than putting it off. Because a lot of times you'll like if it's something like, oh, there's my bowl from lunch is still sitting on the counter and it's not in the sink. Like that'll take way less than 2 minutes to do. So I should just do it and get it over with, right? Now, why does that not work in practice for me anyway? What I've found is when I'm in the mood to go for this like 2-minute rule thing, the good thing is I get that little dopamine hit when I do something like that. When it's clean off the kitchen table, throw the random socks that I found in the living room floor, or the socks I found under the couch cushion, or whatever, wherever kids put things. Taking those, putting them in the laundry, like that's a little dopamine hit. I feel like, oh, I'm being productive. That's great. I'm going to do this. And the problem that I've found for myself with ADHD is that I like that little dopamine hit, feels great, and I start doing a bunch of them. And I start doing a bunch of them. And the next thing you know, I spent 2 hours doing little 2-minute things and completely disregarding the actual big thing that I should have been doing in the first place.
Right.
Or even worse, I'm setting off to do something specific, and then I see a little 2-minute thing. I just do that, and by the time that I'm done doing a little series of 2-minute things, I completely forget what I was doing in the first place.
Oh my God. That happens to me and also happens to my wife all the time. We're cleaning up. Like we just can't, we start this, then we do that. It's like, oh, what was I trying to do to begin with? Like, it's just, you totally lose track of it.
Yeah. There's a phenomenal scene from Malcolm in the Middle. And if some people listening might know this clip, do you know what I'm talking about, Ben?
I remember it when it was on the air when I was a kid, but yeah.
But not. Oh, so there's a scene where, oh my God, I think it's Hal. Bryan Cranston's character, like the dad. I think it's Hal. I'm brain farting on that right now because I haven't slept. Call back to the beginning of the episode when I just said I'm so fucking tired. Okay, so the dad, I think it's like starts out with like a light bulb that isn't working, so he goes to like get a new light bulb. But as he's going to look for the new light bulb, he pulls out. He notices like a screw needs to be tightened or something, and then he goes to look for the screwdriver. When he goes to look for the screwdriver, he's open the drawer, and the drawer squeaks. And then when he hears a squeaky drawer, he has to go get his can of WD-40. And then when he goes, he realizes it's out. So then he goes and gets his keys to go in the car, starts up the car. The car's making a weird noise. And he's like, then the next scene, like
he's at the mechanic.
The wife comes in and is like, hey, aren't you going to change the light? And he like rolls out from under the engine of the car. And he's like, what do you think I'm doing? And I feel like that scene,
oh God,
is so beautifully written, first off, but also like that's how I feel. And then I get frustrated with myself. and I get distracted by all the things. And like, the unfortunate thing of the 2-minute rule, in my experience, is that
Yeah.
if it's left unchecked, it can expand to a gazillion different things. Or even if it is just one thing, and if you have a hard time remembering what you're supposed to be doing, and you're having a hard time staying on task, that it's a very easy, quick way to distract you and pull you out of what you were actually supposed to be doing, while also giving you that little dopamine hit and kind of making everything not productive and not great. So it's like, so that was, to me, that was a good example of a time management technique that, unless I say, okay, I'm going to set a 30-minute timer, and then until that alarm goes off, the only thing I have to do right now is a bunch of 2-minute things. And then I can just go to town. And then when the alarm goes off, then it's like, okay, when that goes off, then I have to go back upstairs and I have to prep the mix session for a song or whatever it is, or respond to this particular email. Then great. But unless I set those guardrails, it can go haywire.
Yeah. I totally resonate with that. It's also like a great way to, like, these 2-minute things. Oh, you think it's like it'll save you down the line, but also at the same time, it could totally be a great procrastinator for doing the actual thing you need to do. And I definitely like have periods of the day where I'll just go through a bunch of little things, but it's very hard to keep track of like when the end of that time should be, because you just like get into a sync of like, okay, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing this, like I have like a lot of like little tasks that I end up having to do, and then I try to do them all together. But then it keeps going. I think it's important. I guess the counterbalance to that is to set aside a time of your day where you're actually making sure you're doing the focused, most important work that you do. And it could be like you could time it off as like from 9 to 12, I'm doing only mixing. I'm gonna edit these vocals from 9 to 11 because otherwise the song isn't gonna get done. You have to like say at the beginning of the day, it doesn't have to be at the beginning of the day, but you have to come up with a time period where this is absolutely, dedicated, holy time for the most important work that you do. That's the counterbalance. And then there are other parts of the day where like there's more wiggle room to do these kind of like small things, take phone calls, whatever.
So then what happens when kids come a-knocking?
And interrupt that special time.
Yeah,
we the special time. The special time.
Different kind of special time. Yeah, not interrupting that special time.
They interrupt all the special times, but the special time we don't talk about enough. where we sit down, where we sit down and mix.
Podcast, Ben.
Where we sit down and mix.
Podcast.
What? No, come on. It's when we sit down and mix.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And
I feel like everybody listening is either thinking to themselves, I don't know what they're talking about, or they're like, yeah, I know what they mean.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Two distinct camps.
Camps of listeners. So yeah, what happens when that special time gets interrupted? Then you have to adjust, and that can be very difficult. For me, it's very difficult. If I have a plan and things are going according to the plan, I do very well. And then if things go off, sometimes it's very hard for me to adjust. Like I have friends that life just throws them a wrench, then they do that, they pivot, and it's all good. Like they could have like a day and they have no idea where the day's going to end, but they'll be cool. Like if my day does not go how I planned it, I'm stressed because I have like feeling, I have like just so much anxiety of like, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't accomplish what I was supposed to accomplish today. And part of that's just being from New York, but also part of that is, I don't know, just who I am.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's an exclusively New York thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what you're saying. I know that, but I think like it's...
Yeah. There's like a New York hustle productivity mindset that I feel like is very dominant where I come from.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, obviously, I think, if you've been on social media in the past couple of years at all, I feel like that kind of grew outside of the geographical region of New York and just became kind of like the norm for how we are kind of taught to run a business, to be entrepreneurs.
The hustle culture.
Which is, I think, why so many time management techniques were developed, because if the goal is to get as much stuff as you can done as possible, and you have to do all these things, then well, of course you have to manage it.
Yes. So it's a self-eating, it's an animal eating its own tail
Yeah.
or something. So what do you do? What does Carl do when his day gets rocked?
Curl up in a ball and cry. No, I honestly, like, I still struggle with that all the time, and I hate it. Like, I'm I am embarrassed about it, but, like, I'm not gonna not say it because I wanna make sure that if anybody else feels that way, that they're not gonna, you know, I want them to feel
Well,
like
there's
they're not
nothing to be
crazy.
embarrassed about, Carl.
Yeah.
You're just a human being.
Yeah, and just, like, I get distracted, like, the rest of the night. Like, it's so hard, and I think this is true for, most people. Like, it's doing what we do, it's really hard to turn off. And, like, the whole idea of, like, work-life balance is, like, so important, but so fucking difficult. Like, it's when because, like, when something goes great, it's easy to switch off, but, like, if there are things where, the life I'm trying to think of how to say this. Like, it's not just keeping work stuff out of, like, lifetime. It's trying to keep life out of work time. And that's what we can't really control, especially when you have kids. Like, you
Right.
can't, like, I mean, I'm sure some people could, but, like, I can't. Like, I can't, like, emotionally like, not have, if my daughter is upset and wants to talk to me, like, I'm not gonna say, nope, come back at 12,
Yeah.
like, um, so it works both ways, and it's hard. It gets harder and harder with, you know, I don't know, with kids and with age, I guess, too. Like, it's harder to, make it as rigidly black and white as
Yeah.
YouTube would like us to think it can be.
Yeah, I think there was a time when I was really trying to separate the work and the life a lot, and I don't know if I could say I've fully embraced it, but I've embraced it much more. That just the lines are blurred and things are messy, and just like it is the way it is. I have noticed since I've moved the studio out of the house, it's only been like a month and a half, but I do find it easier for me to be like present with my kids at night in the afternoon because like kind of like close up shop and then I go home and then it's like, oh, cool. I don't I it's weird because like when the studio was in my house, I was like, oh, I could do this tonight really quickly. I could just jump into the studio and pop and be done with it and be like, and now even though okay, now I have like a laptop and I could do some stuff at home, but like I don't really want to do it on my laptop. I want to do it on my desktop in the studio. I'll wait for tomorrow. Like it's easier for me to say like I'll just do it tomorrow. It's okay. Like I've like accepted that something else can happen tomorrow. It doesn't have to happen today. And a lot of that is just since I moved the studio now, which is I'm really enjoying. I'm not enjoying everything about moving the studio out of the house, but that's like the thing that I am enjoying the most so far.
Yeah.
Um, other than the physical space, which is nicer and bigger than my old space. But yeah, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. But yeah, like separate. It is interesting. Like if I have like a very productive day at work, then I feel it's much easier for me to just check out of okay, I did my day's work, and now I can be home. And now like it's easy to be like okay, check, we did
Yeah.
that. But if you have a day where things got like sort of rocked and you didn't get everything you wanted to do done, or you just didn't feel like you had like maybe it's the ADHD thing, like that maybe I'm discovering I might have. It's like when you just get like thrown off a lot, and even if you did everything you had to do, but your brain was never settled, like you never like felt like settled, like oh okay, I did this, or that, and you're frazzled, then it also like it'll like seep into my life at home also when I get home, and then I'll be like,
Yeah.
I won't be at ease, like oh I did everything I had to do, and
Yeah.
that's a very frustrating feeling, and I just don't know I don't know how to do that either, but.
Yeah.
But
I
separating the studio from the house has helped a little bit.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and I feel like my view on it, like, yeah, on like work life balance, like, you have to accept that it's going to be messy when you have kids. It's and I think the healthiest thing that we can really do is to try to be conscious of it and be aware of it. Like, if we catch ourselves thinking too much about work when we should be just like enjoying a movie with the kids, or whatever it is, like being conscious of it, and then like being able to like okay, this can wait. I can push this back. Like I think the idea of just like, okay, well, it's now 6 p.m. I'm going to go boop, and my brain is going to magically switch over. Like that just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
I haven't seen it, but apparently there's an amazing show called Severance, which is like about that with I don't remember his name, Adam Scott.
Adam Scott. Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw like I hear people talking about it, but I haven't
I think
seen
it's
it yet.
directed by Ben Stiller, and apparently that's like the premise of the show. It's like you check out of work and you have no idea what happens at work when you're home, and you have no idea what happens at home when you're at work. And like interestingly, his Parks and Rec character Ben Wyatt kind of came up with the idea of the show in in Parks and Rec like 11 years earlier or something.
Right.
Um, I love Parks and Rec, best show.
So good.
Anyways, yeah. So, but it's not possible, and like I dig that, like the mindfulness approach to it of like it's like the same thing if like you're mindful when you're parenting, you're even if you're not a perfect parent, like at least you kind of understand you could slowly build habits that will get better over time, if you're
Yeah.
mindful of the things you're doing,
Yeah.
and like mindfulness will slowly improve these things. It's not a perfect fix, but it's a journey towards better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the Pomodoro method, which is kind of like you set aside a certain amount of time to do something, and then you have a break, and you set timers basically on your device. I don't remember if it's like 15 minutes. Like I think there's different ways you could do it.
Yeah. I think it's like 25 is the one that I hear more often.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure what it is, but I do feel like it's like a great idea and concept, and maybe it's a great idea for the 2-minute rule kind of tasks where
Yeah.
you can kind of like, okay, I'm gonna do this for 25 minutes, and then I'll check out because like the next thing on my to do list is anyways just 2 minutes, so it'll wait. But for mixing engineers, for music producers, it's just not a good method at all because
Yeah.
it literally takes you out of a flow state. Because
Yeah.
once you get into the flow state, that's where you want to be. Now, it's hard to tell how long it's going to take someone to get into a flow state, and everybody's different. But for me, it might take 15, 20 minutes for me to get into a flow state, and then I'm there for like an hour or two.
Yeah.
And then don't distract me. My phone's on silent, man. I don't look at my phone when I'm mixing. So don't give me an alarm after like 20. I was like, if you get an alarm like 25 minutes into your mixing session and you just got into the flow state 10 minutes ago, you're totally lost your game. So this is just not it's not an applicable method for us.
Yeah. I think maybe it can work with like admin tasks. But yeah, I think, I think it was Walt Disney that said it takes like 37 magical moments to come back from one tragic moment. And I feel like it takes 37, it takes like 37, great things, inspiring things in a mix to get into the flow state. And it takes one distraction to pull you out, or it takes you, or like, obviously that's probably not an exact 37-to-1 ratio. That's whatever. But the point that like it takes you so much longer to get into the flow state than it does to take you out of it. Like it's so easy to get knocked out of it. And yeah, like I've tried the Pomodoro technique on mixing before just to kind of see like, okay, what if I say I'm going to try to get just like the drums and the bass to feel really good together in these 25 minutes. Let's just see what it does. And like I found for myself, I do work really well under pressure, which is probably why I also procrastinate. But that's a whole other conversation. So I do find like sometimes like that it does actually really work, but I've found it's more like rather than doing 25 minutes, 50 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, and then taking a break, it's like, okay, if I set myself a timer and like I have to get this thing done in that amount of time, I'm probably going to get it done in that amount of time.
Right.
And then instead of it being like, okay, well now it's going to be, let's pull it out of the flow state entirely and take a break. It's like, okay, well maybe when that timer goes off, then I'm going to just switch and apply that flow state to the guitars and synths, whatever. Like I'm not pulling myself out of it. I'm just like, cool, that is my little signal to just redirect my focus onto another creative aspect of the production or the mix. And for me, weirdly enough, that seems to work pretty well when I need to do it. And I'm usually only doing that when it's like super tight deadlines, so I don't go down rabbit holes. But yeah, actual, doing the Pomodoro technique the quote unquote like correct way, it completely destroys it for
Yeah,
me.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I feel
Oh,
like we're like working towards like a solution of like time-based things are good for things outside of flow state. And maybe like we could set guardrails for ourselves when we're not doing our most important work. That's
yeah.
that special time, holy work.
Yeah.
From that when we're in our deep mix, like maybe it is good to set guardrails so we don't get lost in those 2-minute things or the admin work. Like I find I definitely get lost in admin work, and then all of a sudden, like, why am I still looking at a screen? My eyes hurt. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
do you do anything to like get yourself off of the screen, like to give your eyes a break?
Um, not, not, no, I don't know. I think I maybe just, having ADHD and being distractible. I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. I need some water. Or the dog's whining, or I hear, Rowan talking in the next room. I want to go play with her for a minute. So I feel like life pulls me away from the screen,
Mm,
which is a good thing. But before we go on to, or before we dive more into like that stuff, I want to talk about one more thing with the Pomodoro technique that I did find that works kind of well for me. And this is actually kind of going back to, I think it was 2 episodes ago when we talked about how do we know when a song's finished, right? I found it's really helpful for me if I do set a timer or if I have like a really strict time limit of like, okay, I'm giving myself 30 minutes to make any last minute changes before I send this to the client.
mm,
Then it's like I found for myself working under the gun like that, I make a lot of really good decisions. I make a lot of quick. I trust my gut in those moments because I
right.
have to,
Yeah, I love that.
and my gut's pretty good, So I do that. I trust it, and it forces me to only focus on the big things because I've spent plenty of time going down little nerdy rabbit holes. So like I know they generally lead nowhere. So like in those moments, like I think I have enough of experience in crunch time to know, okay, this is important. This is not. I'm going to just do the important things. I'm going to try to get as many important things done as quickly as possible. And I found like that forces me to listen from a different perspective than if I had all the time in the world. If I had 4 hours to do the same amount of work, and I just go down and I'm like, do I need that one tambourine hit there? Do I
Right.
not? I
You
don't
don't need to deliberate
know.
that shit.
Yeah,
You
I can
just
just be like, nope, I'm just gonna listen,
is it
and
good?
if
No,
it sticks out of me,
not necessary. Mute.
yeah. So in those cases, like that actually does help a lot, like setting a
Mm.
timer and forcing myself to be, under the gun for that. So, um, yeah, I was just thinking about that and wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I,
But yeah,
I think I need to start doing more time based things, but not like in the beginning of a mix when you're getting in the flow zone and you're like really setting up the what the actual like mix is going to be like. But for like just other things in life, I feel like I should be setting myself more timers because I do get lost in whatever I do. So I think it's important to for flow state stuff you want to get lost because otherwise you're never going to get there. But for not flow state stuff, you want to like have those guardrails to kind of keep you in check. And yeah, especially when there's so much on my to-do list every single day. Like,
yeah,
could be good if I had a bit more um, vigilance.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I was gonna say like something that I just was thinking about too is that I've gotten so much more efficient with mixing since having kids.
Yes.
I feel like before we had our oldest daughter, who's going to be turning 9 soon, um, I would spend so much time on a song because I had nothing but time. I could do that, especially before we had our oldest daughter. My wife was working as a nurse night shift, like I think she was doing like 3 nights a week, but from 7 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. And at the time, I was primarily just either gigging at night or like teaching lessons after school. So my workday didn't start till 3:30 p.m. And I usually tried to stay up until she got home. So like I would be up until 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, because I just wanted to be able to, kind of be as on her schedule as I could. And I had no reason to be up. I mean, I could go to bed at 7 and get, a solid 7.5 hours of sleep before I have to get up and start getting ready to teach, which
Wow.
is weird and very different from now. Very different from this morning when the baby woke me up at 5 a.m. But
Right.
um,
Can you
but I
imagine
found
that time? That sounds like a lifetime ago.
it feels so it feels like a different person. It feels like a book I read once.
Yes.
Um, but I found that like once we had our oldest daughter, and just like the realities of those curveballs that kids throw at you all the time, it made me get faster and faster because I had less time, and not just because I had less time total to work on things, but also because I had no idea when the next meltdown was going to happen. I had no idea when the next, when the next curveball was coming. So it was just like, I got to get as much done as I can, as quickly as I can before the inevitable, interruption, distraction that happens.
Yeah.
And I found that I got faster and faster and faster with it. And then once we had our second kid, or actually really it was like once we were getting ready to have our second kid, and when my wife was pregnant and she wasn't able to do as much, around the house, wasn't able to really help as much with our other daughter, it was like, okay, just the necessity of that, I had to get even faster and even more efficient. And then by the time that we had our second kid, like I get most mixed ones out the door in like an hour and a half,
That's
maybe
crazy.
2 hours,
That's so
you know?
fast.
And I think it's only going to get, hopefully it's only going to get faster, or at least like more confident.
Yeah.
But it's just because like I don't have any choice other than to make quick instinctive decisions
You have
because
to
the time,
get it done.
yeah,
I think,
having,
and I think faster mixes are better mixes, honestly, because you're
yeah,
going with your gut and you're not overthinking these things, and then you just like you go with your gut. Like in the end of the day, we're looking for like a bodily response. Like we want to be like grooving, shaking our butt, or just like head not bobbing or whatever, and like you get there with your gut much more than you get there with your brain.
yeah, and yeah, and I think like for me, the only, in a weird way, I would say that the time management technique that actually helped my career the most is having children,
That's amazing.
which is a very weird. I don't know if I would classify that as a time management technique. I feel like my wife would be very, or my therapist would be very disappointed if I refer to my children as a time management technique. But I, I think,
Well, they're
but
filling the other
yeah,
part of that time. So
yeah, yeah,
they're also
well,
like,
yeah,
go make money techniques. Like get
yeah,
your shit together, bro.
yeah,
kind
yeah,
kind of technique. I will say also just to add to that, like the pandemic was also a big thing in terms of like expediting things for me also, because like for like months on end we had we weren't leaving. I don't remember how long it was exactly, but there was a lot of time where at that point we only had one kid, but he was home, and like when he would nap, it's like, oh, this is my chance to actually get some work done, and
yeah.
like once he woke up, it was over. It was
Oh
like
yeah, it's
those
it's
are
like
crazy time crunches. Yeah,
yeah, and it's like a ticking time bomb, but you don't know how long the fuse is. Because like
yeah,
some days, I feel like there are some days when you're lucky if they nap for 40 minutes, and then the other days it's like they fell asleep for 3 hours, and you're just like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like I'm not used to having this much
yes, I know
time.
that feeling.
Yeah, and then you look around the house and look at the thousand different things that you should have done before, and then you just get analysis paralysis, and
Analysis paralysis is a
yeah,
big
and then you
thing.
start scrolling through Instagram, and then next thing you know, they wake up and you realize that you forgot to, s- send an invoice or finish the mix, and you got distracted by those 2 minute things. If you want to call back to the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, this is inside the brain of an ADHD music production professional with kids.
Yeah, and also it's fun when the kids have ADHD too. Yeah, if
Well,
you want to know why I am the way I am, that should probably explain
yeah.
it.
More on that in future episodes.
Oh, God.
So Carl,
Yeah,
should we wrap this episode up, or is there
yeah,
anything else you want
yeah.
to add to it?
I was thinking we could wrap it.
Cool.
Um,
So just to put a bow on it, do you want to put a bow on it, or should I try to put a bow on it?
you put a bow on it, and if I feel like there's an extra little frilly to the bow, I want to add. I'll add the little frilly.
So yeah, I mean, I've maybe already said it earlier in the episode, but yeah, life is hard. Life is distracting, and we have a certain a certain job that we have to do that we just need. We need our space, and then there's other things that we do where we need to be kept in place. And so, if you need your space, try to like clear the schedule as much as you can. Clear yourself of distractions. Make sure your phone's on silent. Don't get distracted, and do your mix and get into your flow state. But then, or production or whatever it is you're doing, mastering. But then there's all these other things that you could be doing, and you kind of have to not go off the guardrails, not go off the rails, and you need your guardrails in order to do that. So maybe it's a good idea to experiment with like time-based timers, Pomodoro methods, stuff like that. Yeah, and be careful with those 2 minute get it off the checklist tasks, because you could lose track of time. Go on.
Yeah, and also, and if you if you are trying a technique and it's just not working for you, that's okay. I think just try to figure out, well, why is it not working? Is it something that I can control? Like, is it not working, but it's something that I can control, or is it not working because of something that is outside of my control? Is it not working because I can't stop looking at my phone notifications and I could just put it on, focus mode, and I'm just not doing that? Or is it not working because, your kid's sick, or you need to do something where like the dog barks every time that there's movement outside the window, like whatever it is, like it's just figuring out, well, what is something that you can adjust and what are things that you can adjust, and then figure out, why that technique isn't working and what you can do about it.
Yeah. And also giving yourself grace so you don't like beat yourself up for things that you can't control, and trying to trying to do that, because it's not so easy. Good luck to us all.
Yes. We all need it.
Well, Carl, this has been fun.
Yeah. Thanks for putting up with my sleepy ramblings.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming to hang with me on this Riverside chat.
Wow.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, if you made it this far in the episode, I'm sorry. For me and for Ben, we are sorry. But you're awesome, and we appreciate you listening. And
thank you, listeners.
Yeah, until next time. Bye, Ben.
Bye, Carl.